Colonel William Light surveyed and established Adelaide in 1836 as Australia's first planned city, deliberately surrounded by parklands. Successful, the city quickly grew on the outside of the parklands, and the post-war economic boom and population increase saw a strategic planning document that actually encouraged such an outward expansion. However, by the 1990s, with little undeveloped land between the coast and the hills, planning strategy shifted towards urban regeneration, redeveloping underused inner-city land through higher density, mixed-use, transit-connected neighbourhoods. In 2008, the electric manufacturer Clipsal vacated its inner west factory site in Bowden. The SA government saw an opportunity, securing the site for around $50 million just as the global financial crisis hit. Bowden Urban Village was going to be South Australia's first major demonstration of this new philosophy. With an existing train station and a tram extension under construction, it was an ideal site to use as a model for high-density development around public transport. Under the 1993 SA Development Act, the Premier can override local council plans if the matter is of significant social, economic or environmental importance for the state. He did so and signed a development plan amendment in 2012 based on master plans of 2008 and 2010, bypassing the usual council process. Analysis of this DPA, supported by the Renewal SA website, identifies some core objectives the state is trying to achieve through the planning that I want to test today. There are townhouses, mixed apartment blocks, businesses, and lots of different open spaces as well, making this quite a varied urban landscape. All buildings are required to meet a minimum of 5-star Green Star rating, which means less construction and lifetime carbon emissions, increased water efficiency, accessibility, and an environment that promotes physical activity. With regards to housing, Bowden has delivered with this development. The population density in the suburb as a whole has quintupled from 2011 to 2021, and it's now Adelaide's densest populated suburb, with almost 5,000 people per square kilometre in 2021. So this is Uniting on 2nd, a housing development of 70 apartments rented out as affordable housing by a not-for-profit company. South Australia has been leading with regards to affordable housing through a mandated 15% of all dwellings in new developments to be deemed affordable, meaning low to moderate income households are to pay no more than 30% of their annual income on rent or mortgage payments, and this is meant to bridge the gap between social or community housing and private markets. However, criteria also say that rent has to be capped at 75% of the market. In this case, it allows the eligible applicant to rent a 1-bedroom unit for $374 a week or a 2-bedroom unit for $449 a week. Is this affordable? Rental prices for both 1 and 2-bedroom units are reduced by 28 to 29% compared to the median in Bowden, but not that much compared to immediate surrounding suburbs or metropolitan Adelaide as a whole. These apartments are all leased out now, and quite likely some of these occupants would not have lived here were it not for the low prices. Does it diversify the community? The suburb is characterised by young, childless professionals with a somewhat higher income, so the affordable housing may change it a little, but likely not much. The affordable housing is only for medium income earners, not for low income earners. For that to happen, government must intervene to cut prices a lot more and require that the capping is not connected to market value, but rather an absolute number deemed adequate. Nobody uses public transport as much in South Australia as the average Bowden resident, actually. This is likely due to the availability of the free city tram on Port Road, as well as metro tram station and bus stops nearby. However, the 2021 census also found that 47% of residents still uses a car to get to work, and this is the preferred commuting modality. A 2021 meta-analysis elucidates which factors impact public transport use. Many of these are more city and statewide factors, independent of local planning, such as frequency of services, free workplace parking, relative cost of train versus car, etc. But what other factors can be done something about locally? The planned extension of the tram line into the actual development has not happened yet, which could improve usage, as you're today required to walk 5 to 10 minutes and cross busy roads. Also, reducing parking availability locally is controversial in Australia, but it goes without saying that if an apartment does not come with a car space, its occupants will rely on other means of transport. This was also highlighted in the 2012 DPA, but not so much followed up. A focus on cycling and pedestrian movements and links to surrounding areas was another objective in the 2012 DPA. This was to be reached through several measures. One of these is shared zones. Warn-Edison has pioneered in the Netherlands, where cars, pedestrians and cyclists share low-velocity zones without dedicated pavements. Are these true shared zones? They lack the pavements, but the street-side parking creates a similar barrier, and 40-kilometer zoning is not exactly low speed. Walking around Bowden, I feel like I have to give way for the cars more often than the other way around. Connection to surrounding areas has not been achieved as planned either. The planned bridge across busy Park Terrace has become a level crossing. According to disability consultant Trevor Harrison, who actually lives in Bowden, accessibility has been well achieved, as he is able to freely traverse the suburb without any hitches. Walkability and cyclability in today's urban planning language often gets mentioned in the same breath as Carlo Marino's 15-minute city. The advertising language of Renewal SA's website is leaning more into this concept and the suburb's livability than the 2012 transit-oriented concept from the DPA. However, before more services like education, health and more varied retail options are present, travelling away is probably the only way. This, interestingly, brings me back to where we started, Colonel Light's original plans of Adelaide. 200 years before the concept, he had created a walkable 15-minute city. He spent the last years of his life only 500 meters away from here. Will Bowden live up to its heritage? Only time will tell.